The rain had been falling for 3 days straight on the colony world of Valeth. Beneath the gray skies, the forests turned into swamps, and even the mountains wore veils of mist thick enough to hide giants. And in a way, one of them was hiding. Deep in the mountains, beneath a ledge carved by time and wind, lay Koresh, a dragon older than the colony itself. His scales, once silver-white like frozen lightning, were scarred and dulled, a pale reminder of his prime. His left wing bore a jagged tear that would never heal right. He had fought in the War of Ashes, a war humans barely remembered, but the dragons never forgot. It had been the humans who arrived in ships of fire and steel, cutting down forests to build their colonies. The dragons fought to protect the land, but the humans, they were relentless. Yet Koresh had stopped fighting long ago. He had watched his kind dwindle until only a handful remained, exiled to the deepest wilds. The humans thought them extinct. Koresh had stayed silent ever since, until the cry came. It was faint at first, a sound carried by the storm winds. A voice high and desperate, cutting through the rain like a blade. Koresh's eyes opened, glowing faintly in the gloom. A human child? Here? He unfurled his senses. Dragons did not simply hear, they felt. The sound trembled in his chest, the raw edge of fear unmistakable. Another cry, closer this time. Against his instincts, Koresh rose. His massive form emerged from the shadows, pale scales glistening in the rain. The torn wing dragged behind him as he moved, yet the ground still trembled with his steps. For the first time in decades, the dragon left his cave. The girl, Lena, was no older than 14. She stumbled through the forest, clutching her arm, blood soaking the sleeve. Behind her, the sound of chittering grew louder. Valeth's wilderness was full of predators, but none as feared as the razor wolves, 6-legged pack hunters with hides like black glass and teeth that could shear through armor. Lena had been with the survey team when the wolves attacked. She was the only one who made it this far. Now she was lost, hurt, and surrounded. "Help," she screamed again, though no one could possibly hear her out here. Her voice cracked. Rain plastered her hair to her face. The chittering grew louder. Closer. She stumbled back and froze. From the mist ahead, 2 eyes like molten silver appeared. They were set in a head larger than her entire body. Lena had heard of dragons, of course. Every child on Valeth grew up on the stories, fire-breathing demons, enemies of mankind, extinct for centuries. But this one was real. It was massive, easily 30 feet from nose to tail, its scales ghost-white under the rain. A long scar ran across its snout, another down its shoulder. Its torn wing hung like a broken sail. The dragon regarded her in silence. The razor wolves emerged from the trees behind her, circling, snarling. The dragon looked at them, then at her. And still it did nothing. "Please," Lena whispered, voice shaking. "Help me." Something changed in the dragon's eyes. The razor wolves attacked. They came as a blur of black limbs and teeth. Lena dropped, covering her head, certain this was the end. A roar split the sky. It was not the sound of any earthly creature. It was deep enough to shake the ground, to rattle her very bones. The dragon moved. One swipe of its claws sent 2 wolves flying, broken against the trees. Its tail swept another into the underbrush with a sound like cracking twigs. The rest hesitated, but hunger drove them on. The dragon opened its mouth. Instead of fire, a blast of plasma-charged breath lit the forest in a white-blue glare. Wolves dissolved in mid-leap, the air itself screaming as molecules split apart. In seconds, silence fell. The rain hissed where it struck scorched earth. Lena stared, shaking. The dragon turned toward her. She expected death. That was what the stories always said. Dragons hated humans. Instead, it lowered its head, close enough that she saw her own terrified reflection in its silver eyes. "You saved me," she whispered. The dragon said nothing. Its chest heaved like a bellows. Then, to her astonishment, it knelt, just slightly, but enough for her to climb onto its foreleg if she wished. Her heart pounded. She didn't understand, but she climbed on. They moved through the rain like a storm given flesh. The dragon carried her across rivers, through forests, over broken ground. Every step was a thunderclap. At last, through the mist, the lights of the human colony appeared. But when the perimeter guards saw what approached, alarms blared. "Dragon!" someone shouted. Spotlights cut through the rain. Rifles turned. Lena slid off the dragon's foreleg, screaming over the wind. "Stop. It's saved me. Don't shoot." The dragon's eyes narrowed at the weapons, but it did not move. Humans shouted, argued. Some wanted to fire. Others stared in awe at the creature thought extinct. Finally, the gates opened. Medics ran to Lena. Soldiers kept their rifles trained on the dragon. It simply watched as they carried her inside. Lena tried to fight them off, shouting, "Wait, don't hurt it." But the dragon was already turning away. Rain swallowed its pale form as it returned to the wilds. Silent once more. Days passed. The story spread through the colony like wildfire. A dragon saving a human child. The governor demanded its capture. The military wanted it studied or killed. But Lena wouldn't stop talking about it. "It protected me," she insisted to anyone who'd listen. "It understood me." Most dismissed it as the imaginings of a frightened girl. Until the day the second pack of razor wolves came. This time, they came for the colony itself. Alarms blared as hundreds of the creatures poured from the forests. Gunfire tore the air, but the wolves were too many. The gates began to buckle. Families huddled in shelters. Soldiers made their last stand. And then a roar split the sky. Silver eyes blazed through the storm. The albino dragon struck like a living comet, tearing into the wolves with fury unmatched. Plasma breath turned night into searing daylight. The defenders watched in stunned silence as the beast fought, not against them, but for them. By dawn, the ground was littered with the dead. The wolves were gone. The dragon stood amid the smoke and ruin, bleeding from a dozen wounds, but alive.